Hello and welcome to Module 3, Selecting Your Glass. At the end of this module, you will be able to compare the different types of stained glass and select the ones appropriate for your stained glass project. People sometimes think making stained glass includes the coloring or staining of the glass itself. This is of course untrue. Stained glass is difficult enough art form without adding the manufacturing process into it as well. It is important though to understand how the glass you'll be working with is made. Stained glass is made by fusing together silica, or sand, and some type of alkali, such as lead oxide. The color in stained glass comes from adding different metallic oxides, such as cobalt, which produces a nice blue glass. I'm sure we've all heard of the color cobalt blue. Or gold, which produces our ruby-colored glass, and which of course also tends to be the most expensive for obvious reasons. This mix is then melted at 2500 degrees Fahrenheit and poured into a machine that rolls the glass into sheets, much like a rolling pin sheets out dough in a bakery. There are literally hundreds of colors available, and each one must be mixed carefully according to a formula to produce different colors. There are 4 factors to consider when choosing your stained glass for your art project. And those factors are color, transparency, texture, and coating. Let's talk about color first. Most new stained glass artists think choosing the color of their glass is the easiest part of the project. Your color choice will affect the whole look of the finished piece, so you have to really take your time and think about what you're doing. Color choice is a very personal decision, so take some time in deciding what you want. There are some computer programs like GlassEye which lets you place color samples that represent actual glass into your pattern that you can upload. You can do that, but a simple way to do it is to actually take your pattern and grab some colored pencils and actually color your pattern in with colored pencils that are close to the color that you're thinking about using in your stained glass project. Then you can actually visualize it. And some others will either paint the piece that they're going to do in their mind. Some artists are able to do that. I actually prefer using the colored pencils and actually drawing out what it is I want to do. And remember, no matter what colors you choose, you can always change your mind right up to the point you start soldering. The density or transparency of your glass is how much light will pass through with little or no distortion. The density of stained glass can be transparent, semi-transparent, opaque, or anywhere in between. So, if you want to be able to see through your stained glass, you would choose a transparent piece. If you want to allow light to pass through, but to distort the image on the other side, much like looking through wax paper, then you would choose semi-transparent. And if you want no light to pass through, then you're choosing opaque. Although most glass is smooth, you can also choose textured glass. Textures go from subtle to very dramatic. The more textured a piece of glass, the more care is needed when cutting that piece of glass, which we'll cover later. Textured glass can help produce a more realistic look in your stained glass art piece. Choosing the right texture can help you mimic the look of wood or leaves or even the sails of a ship. When using textured glass, you need to be aware of the grain of the glass. Be sure the grain runs in the same direction throughout your entire piece. There are many different types of textures available to you. All have specific names which are not really important to know. Just remember that texture can add dimension to the piece. Look around for a texture that will work for your scenario. Doubtlessly one exists. Glass coatings add an additional design element. The types of coating used can include iridescent, mirrored, frosted, sandblasted, etched, and even metallic to your stained glass project. Iridescent coatings have a sheen that creates a rainbow type effect. So if you're going to do a project that include, let's say, dragonfly wings, that might be an excellent choice for the wings. You can also include etched or sandblasted pieces to create an icy aspect to it. Frosted glass makes it seem a little antique feeling. There are countless scenarios. Just remember, a coating is another option to add interest and dimension to your stained glass project. Now that you know all the factors to consider when choosing your stained glass, it's important to know that in the industry there are four main types of stained glass, each having specific design features of the factors I already went over. There is cathedral glass. This is clear or color tinted glass that looks like the glass found in many of the old cathedrals. That's where the name comes from. It usually comes in a single color and is a transparent piece of glass, and it may or may not have texture added to it. Opalescent glass is semi-opaque or semi-transparent, and it has a milky white appearance to it. And this comes from mixing a combination of two or more colors together, like you see here. This is wispy glass, which is formed by stirring together two different types of glass, typically the aforementioned cathedral glass and opalescent glass together. And the mixture is this swirled, ribbony looking glass, which has a lot of depth and usually comes with some texture to it. It looks really, really nice if you picture a glass with texture. This is streaked glass, and it's similar to wispy glass, but this is made by mixing two colors of opalescent glass together. And the result is this glass, which is not easy to see through. It allows a little bit of light, but you can't really see or read anything through like a window. It does have subtle color changes in it, and it does add a nice visual dimension to it. So if you were going to do water, perhaps, this would be a good choice. And finally, there's bevels, clusters, and jewels. And what these are different design elements that you can actually purchase. You can purchase bevels, and they look good in maybe the corner of a stained glass, or sometimes as part of a repeated pattern in the center. There's clusters; those are also great for corners, and then there's jewels. You can make these different pieces out of stained glass, but it's very difficult to bevel the edges of them like bevels and clusters you see there. And jewels, while you can cut a round piece of stained glass to accent your piece, it's very difficult, as you can see, to facet it like it is right there. So much easier just to purchase the jewel if that's the kind of look you're looking for in your piece, rather than trying to make it. And that includes choosing your stained glass.